Hey, thank you for joining us again on this Ace Your Health podcast. My name is Dr. Choksy. We're at Ace Integrative Health in Mason, Ohio. We have Miss Erin Hanley here to join us today. We're going to talk about Liift, Lift. Okay, what is Lift?
That's a great.
Yeah, why don't you tell us?
That's a very good question, and it's actually an acronym that stands for Life Improving Internal Focus Technique.
Okay.
So, kind of a loaded word, but
yeah. So, life improving internal focus technique.
correct.
Okay. So, can you tell us a little bit more about what it is and how it works?
Yeah,
what's
sure.
the concept behind it?
So, there is a local pastor here in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Eastman is his name. And this is a genius of a guy, in my opinion, because he compiled a bunch of research over the years. Research from everybody from MDs to counselors to therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, consciousness and spirituality type of researchers, and essentially came together and synthesized all this information to help people release distress and emotional damage from their lives.
Okay. So that's really interesting. So this was invented by him?
So yes, the concepts that have come together were invented. In other words, he pulled from many different types of therapies to come up with this.
Okay.
So it's not just really great statements that we're giving people, but this is a process that we're engaging that client's subconscious mind to give us information or feedback about how to help that person move along their journey.
That's really interesting. So we are both trained by Brian Eastman, and we're called Lift certified facilitators, practitioners. And it's a technique, it's a process. Okay. So when we're doing Lift and it's helping with different emotional situations, states, emotional states, what is it that we're looking at? Like, what's the framework of Lift?
So there are several concepts that are involved with this process. This is essentially a self-directed, talkless type of, I don't even want to call it therapy because it's not. I'm not the therapist in this situation, and it's not about me in a traditional therapy setting trying to tell you what you need to do to heal something. This has to do with unlocking information that's in our subconscious minds and recognizing that, and this was actually from Dr. Carl Jung, the famous psychiatrist, who came out and he said, look, there is a universal truth out there that all of us are tied to in some way, shape, or form. In other words, if I go to India, for example, and there's a crying baby, we could safely assume that child is probably sad or hungry, or there's some amount of distress that's causing that sadness. Same thing with smiles. Any culture across the globe, we know that if someone smiles, generally speaking, they're happy or perhaps insane, but in most cases, they're probably very happy. And so he recognized sort of this basic principle that we all share universal values, and while they may differ, a little bit from one person to the next, most people are a conglomeration of the experiences that we've had since conception. And I think probably a lot of people don't realize just how traumatic sometimes that birth alone can be to an individual. That can come in many different forms. But what I have just really loved about this process is the fact that I didn't have to come out and regurgitate things that I've gone through, painful experiences. No, none of us really want to remember those
So you
things.
went through Lift process
Yeah,
yourself?
I did.
Okay. What happened in that process?
So it's
Like,
kind of interesting because
was it
I mean,
short? Was it long? 15 minutes, hour, 2 hours, 3 hours?
takes about an hour per session.
Okay.
And so it's not, you're not going to go in there and feel overly taxed by the time you walk out. But I know for myself, I mean, I was just struggling. I was struggling with my relationships. I had struggling with my child, struggling with my career. And I had plenty to say about everybody else in my life. And I thought to myself, I need to just take a good, long, hard look at myself and what's going on with me.
Yeah.
Because I'm the one who's in pain. I'm the one who's dealing with these things. And and to the extent that they were really preventing me from doing what I love. And the truth is I would not be here if had I not gone through the Lift process. In fact, I didn't go through Lift to become a practitioner in it. I was doing it for my own evolvement.
Yeah. Wow, that's an interesting experience that you've had. And so Lift helped you emotionally and mentally get over your struggles that you were having, to move past them into doing your task better, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, Lift has been amazing, I feel like, so that's have you tried any other different therapies or modalities of care?
So I'm a certified hypnotherapist as well, and I've had great success with hypnotherapy too. It's just a different way to kind of get to the same end. With hypnotherapy, there's a lot of discussion between the practitioner and the client, a lot. And scripts are developed around that person's particular issues, and it has to be very detailed. With Lift, you don't even have to know what those issues are, where they're coming from, why they're showing up the way that they are. That's the beauty of Lift. It's that we can just ask the subconscious mind to give us direction. And our subconscious mind knows what to do and what order to do the process in.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
So what has your experience been with Lift?
So it's been quite interesting because I started learning Lift from Brian Eastman, and he said, this was his first line to me. He said, have you ever done any kind of therapy, or have you ever imagined a time when the patient never has to talk about their past experiences? They never have to say anything bad that has happened in their life, but yet you're able to help them by reprogramming their experience and the belief system that originated from that experience. So, and then second thing is that, have you ever come across somebody who knew what happened to them at 1 year of age? And how do you reprogram that experience of getting traumatized at 1 year of age, or in utero, as you mentioned that? And the concept of our body and our emotions and our experiences starts getting accumulated from the time of conception was really profound, because things start becoming a belief system of a program, basically, off of which we start operating.
Yes.
And if somebody abused us, we feel the world is very dangerous, and then we will operate as if the world is dangerous.
Absolutely.
Instead of being very fearless. So operating like a lion compared to operating like a gazelle is a two different mindset. Like, people can relate to a lion mindset and a gazelle mindset, or a lion mindset and a squirrel mindset, where you're always running because the world is too big and too dangerous, compared to you can conquer the world. But that mindset happens at the time of birth and utero and childhood as you're developing your experiences. And if something has happened and you want to change that mindset, how do you do that? And Liift is that process in which we can access, now that we're accessing, we're helping you learn and you're accessing, the patients are accessing the subconscious, and we're just showing them what we can program. And their subconscious is guiding us. Like their subconscious is literally guiding us and telling us and saying, hey, I need this fixed. Because you and I both know 95 to 99% of the brain is subconscious. Consciously, we don't even control our own heart rate.
Correct.
Like if I want to increase my speed of heart rate or decrease my speed of heart rate, I can't do that. Unless like you become a real, like you practice and you become a yogi, and maybe you can. But even then, like you can't control and tell your heart, hey, I want you to beat at 72 beats per minute. It's not going to do it, right? So, but subconscious knows how to do that. How do you let your conscious mind get access to the subconscious through this process is what Liift is. So, which was kind of interesting, and I obviously had Liift done on me as well, and went through the process, and I didn't say anything. I literally just went with the flow, and a lot of things came out during this process, and whatever came out had no meaning for Brian, but it had all the meanings for me. And that was profound, because how does these things come out? And is just a magical way of just pretty much, it seems magic, but you'll know exactly what it means when those things come out. And then you just go home and practice those, and it literally reframes your perspective, and you go from being a squirrel and gazelle into a lion. And that's what it was.
That's a fact. I mean, our brains are very plastic, meaning they're malleable. They want to grow, and our brains are fully capable of building new pathways. We're actually a lot more powerful than we've been led to believe. So many of the answers that we seek are truly right inside of us. But in our stressed, fast-paced world, we don't oftentimes slow down enough to check in and really disengage, even to find out what those things are that we can do to help ourselves. So this is very much a process, and the process doesn't end when the session ends. Actually, you and I like to take things to a whole nother level, and therefore we do give you homework. Anybody who's interested in this process, and I would ask you to welcome that homework, because it's in the homework, it's in the stuff that you do at home that's going to get you there a lot faster.
So how does somebody know that they need to take this session and do this session even once? What is something that you see in people that you felt that, okay, this person needs Liift?
Oh gosh, there are lots of dysfunctional manifestations, I would say, that arise out of traumatic experiences, dysfunctional families, even generational and ancestral baggage, so to speak, that really just gets passed down from one generation to the next. I mean, if your mother was a neurotic person and always, I don't know, just always had to be busy, for example, then you may grow up yourself. Not that she taught that to you, but because you witnessed those experiences, we may end up mimicking a lot of the things that our parents and caregivers, right, wrong, or indifferent, we may end up mimicking those thoughts, actions, behaviors. And so in order to get unstuck, whether that be from, I know for myself, a lot of it was self-esteem issues, low confidence, I to this day I still struggle to that with some of those things from time to time, but I can say that I am in a much better place now after having gone through this process, and there are many people who I think this could be beneficial for. So, for example, if you're feeling stuck in your career, you're not able to fulfill your personal or career goals. Maybe you self-sabotage. Maybe there's some addiction issues. Maybe you want to get out of a toxic relationship and have no idea how. Maybe you're on a depression and anxiety roller coaster. 1 minute you're depressed, and the next hour you're in anxiety mode. Insomnia. And the list goes on and on.
Yeah, those are pretty much, I feel like, any kind of blockages in your life that show up, and sometimes you don't know the answers to why things are happening, and you just want to understand yourself a little bit better. Sometimes you don't even know what you don't know, but your subconscious is constantly trying to fight and solve an issue that's going on in your body, and you don't know that until you go through a process, and next thing you know, you find out that, hey, maybe I owe a debt to my ancestral energies, right? There's a debt that has to be paid off, and you may have to do something, and maybe it's your own energies that you're carrying that may have happened in utero. You don't know. Maybe there are, other entities that we call them, or other energies that are with you that you don't know. And it's hard to explain it when we do our best to make our life better. But then until you have this process done, and then it shows something, and then you realize, hey, I know exactly what it means, right? So another way to look at this is, let's say that somebody is scared of going to a doctor, a little kid. Why would they be scared of going to the doctor? Because they've had some kind of traumatic experience at an early age, and they just know that if you go to this person, you're gonna get some kind of, and it's gonna hurt, and that's gonna be that's that they have that experience. So then, as a little kid, your only response is to cry or throw a tantrum and say, I don't want to be here. And then as an adult, we notice these things when we go to a doctor and our blood pressure goes up. Even though we're not completely scared, but that is a white coat hypertension. We say that all the time. Your blood pressure goes up just because you're at a doctor. And that has been engraved way back when we were really little kids, right? And little babies, that blood pressure goes up. When you go to a doctor, you get hurt and things happen. And that's just the way that our subconscious has been behaving. Or because of that experience, we kind of just had that internal blood pressure shooting up kind of a reaction in the body. And if you want to untrain that behavior, then you have to know how to do that. And how do you untrain a program? Because this is a program in this computer, this brain. So that's what this does. So who is this Liift not good for? Is there anybody that it may not help?
Okay. So you really have to be ready, willing, able, and agree on some level to embark on this path.
So you're saying that it has to be
ecological. We wouldn't want to force our children into this. As much as I firmly believe that it's so great and kids really respond well to Liift because they just don't have the years and years and years of programming. And what you said is absolutely true. And I guess there's some debate, but a lot of experts will say the real formative years are from 1 to 7 or 1 to 10, somewhere from 7 to, by the time you're 7 years of age, or maybe up to 10.
We should probably make it -9 to 10.
Yeah.
Or -1 to 10, since it starts at 9 months into the pregnancy.
Valid point. And so those early childhood experiences, because we don't have the logic and the rationale to work through a situation, we create stories. That's what we do. We have to make sense out of our world, and the way we make sense out of the world is adding things to the story that may or may not be true. For example, if you were a school-age kid and let's say you were bullied, and a boy or girl came up to you and said, you're just really dumb, you may not be aware or you may not be able to articulate or even understand why somebody would say that to you.
Yeah.
But you will accept those words as truth. Not everybody, but a lot of people do, especially in those younger ages, will accept those words as true, and then your whole life is formed around that one or maybe several statements. Maybe it's abuse here and abuse at home or wherever. But we tend to carry these things with us like baggage, and we're not always aware consciously that these things are playing in the background of our lives.
Makes sense.
And really kind of just running the show.
So that's pretty cool. And we would love to go in more detail in this. There are different zones, right? There are different areas. How do you focus on certain areas? There are different releases, and there are different ways of treating, whether it's using a holistic approach of using different oils to different practices that you can do at home. And I think it would be awesome to go into details and pretty much show our community how this is done. Maybe it helps them really learn their own subconscious and how to access them, because even without going into this details of all the programs, you can still use the concept of Liift at home without being a practitioner, and you can use that for your daily answers, right? Some things that you just don't get. You're like, okay, should I buy this house or not? And maybe we should use Liift to really get that answers. And maybe there may be a way of doing that to find out what your subconscious really wants. And she's laughing because I'm looking at all of these kind of bigger concepts, so whether it's house or a car or something else. And it's just, maybe I should use it myself, So it's one of those things that, and I probably will now that I'm talking about it. But, and it's something that you forget sometimes, life happens and you just forget sometimes that you have access to these things to really figure out an answer. And we'll show you many, many different ways. And I think we have perfected a non-biased way of accessing the answers and really going through these deep understanding of these different zones and what happens. So we'll wait for our next session to talk about Liift. There are, if you're interested in it, right, there are a handful of Liift practitioners in the Cincinnati area. Brian Eastman is one of them. Both of us are practitioners. There are a couple other practitioners in Dayton and Indianapolis area as well. So if you're really interested in it, I would call us, find out. You guys are welcome to come out to the practice and meet us. It can also be done through telemedicine as well. So it can be done. We do it long distance and people thousands of miles away. And we see some amazing results because it's helping people overcome their barriers, whatever that barrier may be. It could be themselves, right? You could be the biggest barrier to your own success, and whether it's success in business, success in health, and in that setting, I think it's kind of really cool. We have a huge community of people, and if you're really interested in learning a lot more about it and have these kind of handouts that we have, so that you can print out these handouts and do it yourself, learn it yourself, and figure things out. And then if you need real help after that, then obviously you can call us. But you guys can join the community like many others have. And the link is somewhere on this page, either below, above, somewhere on this page. There's a link. It's also can be found. You can cancel this. It can also be found at aceintegrativehealth.com. And Aaron Hanley's there, Dr. Choksy, that's me, we're there. So give us a shout out, call us, text us, email us, whatever you want. We're more than happy to help you guys out. As always, want to let you guys know that if you reach out to us even one time, we will make sure that we pray for you. And we have this weekly session where we have a group prayer where we send out our positive vibes, our intentions to all of you guys who have reached out to us, and pretty much all of our patients. So with that said, thank you so much for joining us. We love you, and take care. God bless.